Never withdraw from a relationship that you haven't deposited in.
It started off with the mindset of building a 4-bedroom house and then shifted to building a Santon. How does that mindset change happen?
Where you come from doesn't define you, but understand where the opportunities are in where you come from.
Bulelani Balabala, CEO of IAF Brands.
We don't find your purpose asking that question, you find it doing stuff.
Award-winning entrepreneur, youth ambassador.
I've built it, I've lost it, I've built it.
He has impacted 80,000 plus small businesses.
If they could build that in the middle of nowhere with nothing, and I'm here in the township and I've got community and people, how much more could we build? We could actually build our own Santon.
The founder of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance, aka T.
Even when you enter spaces where you deserve to be, where you've put in the time, you've got an imposter syndrome.
And now, the author of the Township Entrepreneur's Guide to Get Things Done.
So now that changed my whole entire trajectory.
After this conversation, I'm ready to invest. Hey, welcome to the latest episode of the C.Cast. It's an absolute pleasure having you here today. Before we get into the next guest, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what this podcast is about. We are about connecting creativity and technology to uplift the African continent and connect the world to Africa. What we do is we chat to members of our communities. We give them a platform to share their story and to share how they are connecting Africa to the digital economy and the world to Africa. So before we get into this next guest, if you like our content, I just want to remind you to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about what you think about the conversation. If you want to get more involved in the community, you can also join the WhatsApp group by scanning the QR code. In this group, we'll be able to share opportunities, knowledge with you, and you'll be able to meet other like-minded people of the community. So yeah, we hope to see you in the group soon. Until then, let's get into the episode. We've got Bulelani on the podcast today.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I think I've never heard anyone introduce me with the book.
Yeah.
It's like the first media engagement at all that talks about the book. So it sort of feels a bit surreal.
I feel honored to be the first media engagement.
Thank you so much.
Where we mention the book, because I know that there's going to be some real gems in that book. I think today I'd really like us to get into the ingredients of that book, right? Yeah. Because yes, you have a book that kind of summarizes the entire story, but there's an entire journey that it had to be gone through to get to that point, to summarize that. The book is just a glimpse of that journey. Yeah. So normally on the podcast, we like to start off with, where does it start? So rewinding back to the late 80s, early 90s, we're coming out of apartheid. We've got young Bulelani in Tembisa. What is that like?
I mean, the younger me, man, was a free spirit and free soul. As my mother says, I never liked dressing up much. I used to run around in my underwear.
Oh, wow.
Well, and the pictures is proof of that, right? But, grew up in Tembisa. In actual fact, in a family home, headed by my granddad, very strict dude. But it was nice to me, strict to everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I think the traditional 4-roomed house in the township, you've got your uncles there, your aunts, their kids, your grandmother, it's just as some cousins, it's just as a mashup of individuals. But, what permeates in the room is love. What permeates in the room is singularity, it's love. In and amongst everything, and then just joy. And you almost don't see lack. Lack is seen when you grow up and engaging with friends and socializing. And also they have that. Also he has that. So those want that. So when you have this, you are the man, or you're the lady, or whatever the case is. Right. And yeah, man, I guess, I went through my schooling at some point in the township, then moved to one of the primary schools, Olifantsfontein Primary School, went to high school locally, but then was shipped off to a boarding school. It was a terrible experience, but it was great. Yeah, man. And then what did I do after that? Then after that, I mean, after the boarding school experience, I was grade 9 and I dropped out.
Oh, wow.
Because my mother was about to lose her job where she was working. So her fear was, if I lose my job and you continue with this school thing, I can take you to a cheaper high school, but all you have is a matric. So maybe let's just take you to an FET college and see if you can get a trade in a particular discipline. Went to that FET college, then the money ran dry before one could specialize in anything. So dropped out of that as well. And but in between there, one was doing odd things like selling sweets, and some point I had a friend was selling cell phones, he had cell phone, I don't know. There was some odd stuff, man, that one was doing, right? And 2 of those years, I mean, after I dropped out, that college, 2 of those years I was doing nothing. I was just at home, lazing around, loafing around. And I remember there was this one specific day when my mother came back home and we were living with my cousin at the time. And she was like, someone told me of opportunities at an electrical company that's based in Joburg. So I need you guys to go there. Here's the cash. Get your CVs ready. You're going to apply for the job. And the job was to dig electrical trenches. There we were. My cousin got onto the train, walked to the trains at Opmo train station, got onto the train, headed to Park Station, Joburg. And then we got there, looked at each other in the eyes, chucked the CVs in the bin, went back home. And like, ain't no way we're doing electrical changes, So that arrogance, that stupidity, that foolishness as a young dude. But after that, one continued to do nothing. Then I became very active in local youth engagements, and most importantly, also in church. Then I think there's when I met a gentleman who shared about his journey, a very successful entrepreneur, Hector Mtao, shared his journey. And I mean, I resonated with that. But also, I was really stretched because some of the concepts he was sharing with stuff are concepts I've never heard of in my life, right? That you can dream beyond Tendisa. I'd never heard of that. All I wanted was to have a nice VR6, or a nice Toyota Corolla or a Taz, and live in a nice 4-room crib, got my family, I'm sorted. I don't want anything more than that. But my mind got stressed, and I guess out of that, man, business sort of formed, business sort of became the thing. And I think what really also then sparked the type of business I really went into in a more formalized fashion is when I saw a friend of mine who came back from school with a t-shirt that was branded, but it had his name on it. And I mean, that was like 20 years ago or something like that. No, 18 years ago. So how do you have your name on a t-shirt? It's like a rare thing. But other than that, then an idea sparked. So your friend from school did this. Maybe I could get your friend to do some of the stuff, to commit to doing stuff for me that I'll do for other people. So I'll then be a broker for this individual, because then I knew there was a lot of soccer fans in the township. They'd love the idea of having their names on t-shirt and a specific number of someone they love or whatever. So we then, I then started and we met this dude. We engaged, started to do that, got a lot of support from the local soccer guys. Out of that, then an idea hit me. Then we pitched to some of my other friends, because the next year, 2007, they're going to do matric. So let me pitch to them to do matric jackets for them. So there I am going to the school to present. I'm wearing my pink shirt, formal trousers, no car. I walk in there. The lady opens the gates. I get to reception. She's asking me, where you parked? I'm like, my driver dropped me off. That time I walked all the way from Kenton Park to Rosefield High School. I get there, meet Deputy Principal Mrs. Ras. I'll never forget. Very sharp, strong lady. She says, okay, cool, tell me more. Tell me about your business. No, this business we ran over so many years. We've got a factory in Cape Town and Durban. No business, no factory, no Durban. I ain't never been to Cape Town or Durban. I have for it. But we pitched this thing. She likes it. She says, come back with samples. And think to myself, samples? I call this dude, they have samples. Like, dude, I don't have samples. What are you talking about? All I do is I print t-shirts, and I'm not the one who prints. Some Chinese guy that I work with is the one who prints. In any case, we can't get the samples. But I then commit to the next meeting and I go there. But what I then do is that I get I get an exercise book, I get a pencil, I start to sketch out things with no color. So now here I am, I come back. I don't know what happened. I think she forgot, but they'd assembled all the kids there. And then she says, here's a gentleman who'd like to show us some stuff. Then I've got this relay bag. There's no laptop, but I put bricks inside so that it weights it out. And then I've got, I'm wearing the suit that I got for the previous year. I was accompanying my cousin to a matric dance. Then I got my brother's Motorola V3 cover. The ones that you latch onto the bats. I'm walking in there, I'm presenting this thing. I pull out these pictures and I'm scared, thinking, now you'll be caught out. I pull out this picture. They're like, oh my goodness, we like that one. I'm like, oh my goodness, my people, walk out of there. Then they said, okay, call me back. They then call me back, and that's how I first made my first big deal. It was about 15,720 to provide Rhodes High School with matric jackets in 2007. And then the thinking was, you know what, this business will do well. Maybe let me approach other schools. But I guess it was the luck of the fact that, the blessing of the fact that I had friends there, probably motivated for it, because the previous years it never picked up at all. But then I thought to myself, well, we'll supply these things. Started with them in January, delivered in April. Now what can one do? And I'd made the most amounts of money then for me, because I made my first 800 rand. For 800, gave my mother 500. She probably thought, she actually thought I was up to no good, or drugs, or whatsoever the case is, right? And then I thought, maybe I need a day-to-day business, because this matric jacket stuff is seasonal. So I need a day-to-day business that will give me the money. Then I sort of thought out. Then I started to scramble. Back opposite neighbors were renovating their house. So I asked them for their wardrobe doors, right? The local supermarket gave me their crates. I used those as table stands, so that I could make a makeshift table. My brother gave me his Pentium 1 computer and an HP 610 inkjet. I'll never forget. Pentium 1 computer. I didn't even know how to use and negotiate with my mother. She allows me to use a single garage where all the pots, pans, boxes, dust, and junk was stored. I sublet with all the boxes. I'm in there. I've got this brown couch. Then I remember it was the 3rd of September 2007. We opened up our doors. We had no internet, by the way, because there was no infrastructure at the time. So ADSL, as we used to enjoy, now it's replaced by LTE and fiber. It wasn't there at that time. So we had to wait for 2 years from the big telecoms company in the country to jump on. And in waiting, you sort of, now you don't know how to use these things, but you sort of then have committed. We open up our doors. First day we open up, we make 5 rand. I'm excited, think it's going to grow incrementally. We make 3 rand. The next day, 1 rand, nothing. Then for the first number of years, about 7 years, we make anything between 180 and 380 rand a month. Business is doing bad. Our losses. But I've sort of then committed to myself that I don't have a plan B, I don't have a plan Z. This is my plan, and I have to make this work one way or another. Seventh year, in the 7th year, mid-year, I'm like, this is nonsense. This thing is not working. I'm giving up on this thing. Strange enough, a month later, things started to change. Things started to pick up in a drastic manner. Now we had people coming in. I typed a good over 20,000 CVs before I had my first employee. Now we then started to ask ourselves a question. But if people are coming here to this internet cafe in the township, there's about 7 others around us. Why come to this one specifically? What are these people looking for? Because on any given season where there's vacancies in a specific area, you'd find 30, 40 people all coming to apply for the same post because of the saturation. Now, then we had to then apply our minds to say, majority of these individuals have got the same sort of educational background, same skills. They went and did security grade E, grade B, grade C. They're applying for a security post. So all of them look the same. So on the other end, how about the other people going to other internet cafes, going to make the same CV, and they're probably looking for 2 or 3 posts that need to be filled. So how then do we then help this individual stand out? Because the person on the other end is not going to be looking for the best specialized. All of them look the same. So if we can make it visually appealing and, increase our efficiency in terms of how we delivered on that, maybe we could buy them some time. Now then from that, the moment we started introducing that, it was in a template. You could now do it within 15 minutes, in and out. People are there. Now people are coming back in to say, actually, I got the job. Thank you.
It's good.
No, I got the job. Thank you. I'm like, but why are you thanking us? Because like it had everything to do with that template. Now you have people coming all the way from Atteridgeville, Davidson, and all these places to come get their CVs done, with us. And I guess then the business grew, went into brokering, which was reselling other people's printed products. So the matric jacket business never picked up. I mean, in between that, I'm transporting school kids. I'm selling food packs at the end of the month, the polonies and cheeses. At the beginning of the year, I'm selling stationery packs for the local school. At the end of the year, around November, I'm convincing the local creches and the schools that if you got graduations, call me. I'll bring my camera dude to come take pictures. We'll create certificates and give a little pack for them. I'm running this and thinking if it's not making money, doing odd maintenance and construction jobs. Just did a lot of stuff in between, right? And then I think, the journey one then developed and got mentorship, got trained, was able to access certain markets. And I think from there, the business started to grow. Then it then grew into this printing business that then became a manufacturing business where, at some point we manufactured all the collateral for a number of multinationals in the township. And that was a beautiful moment for me because now you've got this office in the township with the machinery and equipment and you've got boardroom. So that was a big thing for us. Although only 2 clients have ever come to our office, because I think we also then believed in the narrative that says if we are in printing, it's a highly commoditized business, meaning that if someone is asking for your services in Sandton, they're not asking for your services because you are the best printer. They're asking you because they can trust you. And you make it convenient for them. Why? Because you come to them. So the ethos then with the team was always make it easier for the client. Even on things where we know that it's the client's job to show up. Let's show up because we are the ones who want it. So that in between them driving from where they are to where we are, they don't get distracted by any other offers. Why? Because they know that they can rely and trust in us and we'll go the mile for them on any day. I guess then the business grew, man. And I sold the business 2 years ago.
Sure.
That was a beautiful moment for me to build something out of nothing, to get it to a point where you sell it. But in between there, I then started Tea 10 years ago because I was also passionate and about the work. The work was really, and the time it wasn't work. That time I was just passionate about doing the one thing. Once a month, we'll gather township entrepreneurs in Tembisa to do 2 things: share information and network. That's it. Get to know each other, share information. But then it's grown into this nationwide footprint initiative. But I think my own personal entrepreneurial journey really for me is, really just fortified because the big thing for me as well, I think at every single stage of development and growth was consistently pointing at take ownership of where you come from. Because whenever I'd go out to clients and sell, I'd always sell, we are the best printers, we have the best quality. And I remember sitting with one of the creative directors, I think it was probably Paper Marie from Joe Public, then many years ago, said to me, but B, come on, man, you're not the best, bro. I know the best. But however, tell me your story. The moment I told him my story, why I decided to go into this, where I'm from, and the sorts, he was like, but that's the sell. So we won't do business with you because we already have people, but you now be part of our community and we'll support you in any way. As a result of that, they actually funded our first printer that we ever got many moons ago, right? And that then showed me that, in actual fact, I grew up in the township and everything that I've always aspired towards was to live in Sandton, have a corner office with a view in Rosebank and all these places. But I was actually, had forgotten about the power that was within the township. That for me then started to unlock that. And I remember the most closest thing that I could utilize as a sort of tangible explanation to people was, I remember there was an ad, I forgot what brand it was. The ad depicts Sandton as a bush, and then it fast forwards it as it scales into, dust to bricks to irrigation to pipes. into the richest square mile. And then the ads ended up and says, today it remains as the richest square mile in Africa. I then said, but if they could build that in the middle of nowhere with nothing, and I'm here in the township, which was segregated as, special zones to put black people so that they don't have means of access to commerce and development and support. But we already here and I've got community and people. How much more could we build? We could actually build our own Sandton. So now that changed my whole entire trajectory and focus in terms of where opportunities are and how to position yourself in the market. But it was a tough one because you're doing that as an individual with friends that aspire for the glamorous things, with friends and a community of people that, if you wear name brands, then you are the man. If you are able to enter certain communities and hang out in certain spaces, then you are the man. But I was saying, no, but how's about the spaces we grew up in? Who are we leaving those spaces for? Because there is no vacuum in life. Whatever you leave open, someone else is going to come in and fill that space. And I think to a degree, when you sort of look at in the township, the big fight really around foreign nationals occupying spaza shops and the sorts. The big driver around that as well is that at my time, I can only talk about what I know. At my time, there was no friend I could have ever convinced to open up around a spaza shop because it was an uncool thing. Because all of us wanted to work at the supermarkets and the name brands and the sort. And because of that vacuum, someone else saw an opportunity that was hungrier, that took advantage of that opportunity. Now it's a big frustration to get access to that market again. So I think the big thing for me has always been, really take pride in where you come from. Understand where you come from doesn't define you, but understand where the opportunities are in where you come from. Because where you come from also then gives you the amazing insights. So today when I sit with corporates and they pay me for insights on the township economy, but they're paying me for insights, I grew up there. I still then am completely plugged in there. Some of my businesses are there. And that gives you then a competitive advantage because you've got deep insights and understand them on a market that no one understands.
That's that thing of like, the thing that's holding you back is low-key actually your superpower.
Yeah.
But in order to unlock that, it's a matter of shifting the mindset.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to hear how it started off with the mindset of building a 4-bedroom house and then shifted to building a Sandton. How does that mindset change happen?
You know what? It's obviously it starts with the seed is planted, the idea is planted. But over and above that, then it requires discipline. So once the seed is planted, you must do the work of nurturing it, feeding it. Feeding it means maybe I need to change the spaces that I frequent. Maybe I need to change the conversations with the type of people I'm talking to. Maybe I need to have high-pitched conversations with people where I don't understand the jargon, I don't know what they're talking about, and I'm drowning. But I need to be there and I need to drown because when I'm in that space, I'm going to learn at the end of the day as I move along. So I think that for me then becomes critically important, and especially also to small businesses out there, any individual out there that's really just looking to grow. You don't grow if you're not deliberate. You need to be deliberate about your growth at the end of the day because no one is going to want it on your behalf. You have to want it for yourself. And where you are clear about what you want, take the deliberate moves and steps to build whatever you want. I remember years ago, I used to say stuff like, you can't build and eat at the same time. You need to choose what you're playing for. There'll come a time where you might be able to do both. But in the initial stages, you need to, sometimes you need solitude. You need to pull yourself away from spaces and people so that you can focus on building whatever it is that you're building. But if you're trying to build that, and I remember in my business when I started, I had all of my friends and I said, just come around and chill with me here. It was this nice, fun time. They'd come chill there. But whenever a customer walked in, it felt like they were disturbing something. You understand? Then I had to get to a point where I said to my friends, don't come anymore. Then some didn't like it. Some thought I was rude. But I needed to go to that solitude so that my mindset starts to acclimatize itself to understanding that this journey at the time that I started is a lonely journey. But most importantly, this is your journey. You can't walk it with friends. You need to walk your own you need to walk your own journey and face your own challenges. And I did that. And, I think also then in doing that, and I think I do it every single day with different things that I do, with different things that I want to achieve, with different things that I want to learn. There's a time for relaxing and leisure. There's a time for building. I had my 2 years of resting after I sold the business, and I was bored, but I enjoyed that peaceful mind. Then, because of the insatiable hunger, because I'm a creator, now I'm building other tools and I'm building other things. Now my days are back to being 18-hour days. But there are different seasons and moments, and one needs to be attuned to the season in your life. Sometimes we want to wish the pain away and we want to wish the struggle away. You wish it away, but don't ultimately extinguish it, because you have to feel the pain and the pressure of going through what you're going through. Why? Because great things are truly built through pressured environments. And I think, the more and more we understand that, is the more and more you understand that there are certain things that you go through in life where sometimes you might not even ask for help. You must actually go through it and feel every single thing that you need to feel. Sometimes what we do is that we go for the quickest option, which is the option that is the least embarrassing. Maybe, I don't want the bank to repossess my car. Bro, can you borrow me 5,000? Can you borrow me 5,000? So as you do that, you lose credibility along the way. And then they end up taking the car anyway because you have not built any sustainability. But an honest conversation says, I've tried to pay for this thing. I can't afford it. Let them take it. It doesn't matter what people think. What that then does is, over and above the fact that you'll bounce back, it's now built a better, bigger you. When you actually bounce back financially, you might even find that you don't want a certain type of car anymore, even though you can afford it. Why? Because your whole mindset has shifted about owning material things that look a certain way, because now there are certain things that please you. It allows you to grow and live your own individual life. Because when you think about it, majority of the way we live our lives growing up is not driven by our own personal desires. It's driven by what friends have said, what we watch on TV, what family have said, what our mothers and sisters and the sorts have said. When you go through life and you go through it raw and you're feeling the challenges and the pain, but you decide to go through all of those challenges, it builds you and it peels off the layers of their opinions. Now those layers and opinions don't matter anymore. Now the original you actually comes out and you start to live your life genuinely for you.
Why do people care so much about what other people think?
It's vanity. It's vanity. For me, number one, it's vanity. It's whenever you have not unlocked who you truly are, you're going to try and seek out who you are in things. And it's going to be the toughest thing, because there's a never ending, to that. It's like when you sort of look across, when a person has not discovered themselves, and I always say this, in business, especially to my friends, I don't work and I avoid working with people who are not clear on their position. And clear on their position for me is around the personality, their values, their traits, and then also how they apply themselves in spaces. And then what business are they in, and are they consistent within whatever discipline? Whether it's doing well or not, that's a different conversation. But are they consistent? Because how you handle that will then determine if I work with you. Because there's one thing that my accountant told me many, many moons ago. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. It just manifests itself differently, but it's still the same old thing. So instead of justifying the effects of the things that you're doing, one needs to be digging deeper at the fact that you are not where you are because you are not doing some of the things that you need to be doing to get you to where you need to are. Every single human being has an ideal person. Every human being has an ideal person that they want to be. That ideal person could be a CEO. That ideal person could be having a podcast with 1 million subscribers. That ideal person could be a better man, a better husband, a better friend, a better dresser, a better speaker, a better creator, a better broadcaster. All of us have that. And all of us have the individuals that we are currently. And in between that are all the steps that we could be taking to get to where we need to go. But the differentiator really at the end of the day is, are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing to actually work on your development so that you get to where you need to go? The reason why it's tough, okay, for us to get to where we need to go, it requires discipline. And discipline is a tough thing because discipline says, do the same thing. Do what you did yesterday, do it better.
But not even that, also like sacrifice.
Yes.
What are you willing to give up in order to get?
So true.
Hey, hold on. I just need to remind you very quickly to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment down below about what you think about this episode. We need to be able to tell the algorithm on YouTube that we are creating content that is valuable. So please engage with this content, whether you're listening to it on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever platform, please engage. It just helps us reach more people, brings more people into the community, which means more access to knowledge and opportunities for you, a member of the community. So please don't forget to engage on this video or this audio podcast and leave a like, comment, or subscribe and give it a share. Thank you so much. We'll hop back into the episode.
You're talking a lot about identifying a sense of self. And I'm so excited to chat with Alan because I know that's his message. So we're going to chat about that in the next episode. But in terms of Bulelani's story, there was one thing that you mentioned from the beginning, and you mentioned that you had a conversation with someone that opened your mind.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that conversation, because it sounds like through that conversation, you were able to see yourself in a different light, and it helped identify who Bulelani is.
Yeah, quite interestingly enough, the conversation with Alon, because I was incubated in a race corp at some point. So I didn't qualify to meet the criteria to get into Alon's program.
Sure.
But I applied anyway, and I knew when I applied. Then I got there, did the interview. Then Alon says to me, there's 3 of you guys here. You guys don't make the cut, but however, I've got my book here, What to Do When You Want to Give Up. So, they're based in Kramerville. I'm going to give you guys 3 books each. You got an hour. Whoever sells the most is in.
Mad.
There I am, we're rushing apart. I don't even know the place. But the crux of it is I sell, I actually get the money. I give it in. I've sold the books. Now I'm in the program. The other guys come back. They haven't sold anything.
Sure.
That moment is part of the many moments I've had with a lot of different people because I hold on to those things really dear to my heart. I never let them go. But that's the moment that showed me that any person who wants to deal with poverty out of their lives, sell. You need to sell. But, to the question that you're asking around the conversations that open up the mindset, I've had many, but no conversations open you up if you don't take it in and work on it. You have to take it in and work on it. That's why, I've worn this cap for 10 years, every single day, Sundays, Saturdays, but I've worn this cap as a reminder to me that I need to get things done, that everything I've learned and everything I've heard, everything I've read means nothing if I do nothing about it, that the real differentiator is getting things done. Me and you can sit here and talk about C.Cast is this or is that. He showed up. Whoever is not such a good singer, the difference is they showed up. So we can come up with all these conversational pieces about people that are already occupying spaces and why they don't deserve to be there. But the thing is, they showed up. We're having a conversation around a bright stand about the people who are actually doing the work. So the real differentiator then is actually doing the work. But the challenge is we overthink the start. So that's the big frustration, especially with a lot of small business owners and individuals, is you want to start with a Josh end in mind, but you want to start where Josh is, but it didn't start where he started. And you're undermining where you start. But the equal side to the conversation says, start where you are. Starting where you are should be a resource start, but it should not be a small in the sense of your mindset. So start small based off your resources, but never with your mindset. Because whenever you start small, and that starting small saturates every aspect of your business and your mindset, what you then intrinsically do is that even when you enter spaces where you deserve to be, where you've put in the time, you've got an imposter syndrome. and you feel like you don't deserve. Even when your product or service has gotten to a point where you can charge whatever you need to charge, you feel like it's inadequate or they're paying you too much or you're robbing someone. Why? Because you've allowed the mindset of starting small. You started small physically and you started small in your mind. That is why everything around you then is limited. But but the big thing for me is to say, start small with the resources that you have, but be big, be bold, go into spaces. Why? Because uniqueness has an expiry date. And that's the one thing that we need to talk about. And also then, consistently talk about. You could have been, and I think it's one of the things that, in part of sharing your story, I could have been an individual that grew up in Tembisa. And growing up in Tembisa, we experienced things similar to my neighbor. And my neighbor the same age, probably went to the same school or whatsoever the case is, experienced the same challenges, probably even go and apply for the same job and start on the same job. Our stories seem unique in a sense, but they also seem intertwined. But at the end of the day, if I'm in business and I intertwine my story to my business and I'm selling products, whoever makes the loudest noise and gains share of voice in getting the story into the market, they now get known as that individual, which means that it becomes twice as difficult or as hard for me to enter the same market and tell the same story. So with that being said, it means as a business owner, when you start, whatever it is that you start, make as loud of a noise as you need to make. Why? Because you are signaling everyone who's in the room that you've arrived. You're playing small, there's no honor in playing small when you know that you've got the capabilities and the capacity to do more. And if you can't do more, do more. But ensure that people that know who you are. Why? Because you are owning your uniqueness. Because when you own your uniqueness, no one can ever take it away from you. So those conversations for me are ones that shifted me. So when this gentleman, Hector Mtao, over 20 years or 22 years ago, came to my church youth service and he said, get out of Tembisa, you guys need to get out of Tembisa. We're like, what do you mean? He says, maybe wash your neighbor's car, get enough money to pay for a taxi fare, go to the nearest town, get to a restaurant. You might not be able to afford a meal, but just order tea or order water. That's what I did. I got enough cash. I washed people's cars, did odd things, got enough cash, went to Pretoria CBD, got to the CBD, I walked to the Mercedes-Benz. The dealer was was a very nice guy, showed me around. I felt the imposter syndrome, got out of there, walked all the way down to the local restaurant, Wimpy at the time. Then they were giving out newspapers for free. And I got my rooibos for $350. And then all I did is I sat and I watched people live. Was this thing as just no, sit and watch people live. Sit, just spend 2-3 hours, just sit in that moment. The waiter will come and ask you, do you want to order anything? Just say, no, I'm still reading right now. I'm waiting for an appointment or whatsoever. Then they let them walk off, but watch people live. Why? Because that then will then open up your mind to saying, there's more to life than what you see. And then on the back of that, think about it this way. It makes sense that 20 years ago, I was doing the things, the odd jobs I was doing. That 18 years ago, I started my business as an internet cafe, because that's what I was exposed to. I was exposed to the internet cafe, the car wash, the sishanyama, the hair salons, the barbers, all these taverns and the sorts. Then I just simply chose that business. So which then says we start businesses according to the level of our exposure, the level of our knowledge, or the level of our networks. So then it makes sense why I started that way, because that was my exposure. So one of the best things that anyone could consistently do for themselves is consistently expose your mindsets to new concepts and new ideologies. Because what is innovation? Innovation is when two different ideologies collide. Because when they collide, we call that innovation. So disrupt yourself with mindset and understanding other industries. So if I'm driving to this interview today and I've got an hour gap and I'm driving here, what am I doing with that time? Could I be listening to a podcast? Could I be deliberate about the growth areas where I want to develop myself in my life? So that when I go into spaces and I'm talking development, I'm talking sales, I'm talking growth, I'm not just simply talking from what I know. I'm talking from every single thing that I've learned, because I'm invested in my own development and my personal development. But because consistently disrupting yourself is one of the best things you could ever do for yourself.
Yeah, and it takes courage, eh? It takes courage, because if you're not someone who is normally meant to be in those places. I mean, like, even if we go back to, like, we spoke earlier about townships and how things being spatially separated, I think that has messed us up so much as a nation because it shifted the mindsets, not just in our minds, but like geographically speaking, it's created this like gap.
Yeah.
This person's supposed to be here and this person's supposed to be here. And that messes up the mind because when geographically things are separated like that, in your mind, things are also separated. So what I love about like now is that we have like the beautiful part about the South Africa that we live in now. And like there are a lot of things that we always complain about and deal with. But like you said earlier, those things that seem to be the storm are actually the things that are equipping you to be able to overcome and to take that next step. So that mindset shift, I think there's a huge opportunity in that to go to the Sandton and live in that space, make a friend, see what people, and you know, what's also crazy is like people that are, you know, achievers or the ones that have done great things, they always start, or most of the time are starting from a similar position where they didn't have all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think being someone who was born in 97, right? Who's first year Gen Z, I like to always say. We're the trailblazers of the Gen Zs. But like one thing that I think is our, you know, can be viewed as a thing that holds you back, but is also a tool on the other side of it is social media, right? Because like we can sit here today and we can go online and see what it's like to live in Europe, for example. And I always say, like, on these podcasts, I wish everyone had the opportunity to like go and travel abroad because that's like the next level up beyond like Township versus Sandton. You go abroad and you see, oh crap, like there's actually women walking on the street at 10 o'clock at night and they're fine. Like, mind blown, right? But it's like, yeah, that's possible for us. So I think that mindset shift is so important, which is why we wanted to have you here today, because someone who's come from, you know, that beginning, who's been able to get to where you are now, that's a example that someone can take away from this and can kind of shift their own mind from.
Like that.
So thank you for joining us. But yeah, when it comes to like your story, something that I think can be viewed as this like double-edged sword, right? Is that thing that you were talking about earlier on, that comparison thing, right? You realize you're happy until you get to those points of consciousness, and then you realize, oh, I don't have, and that person does have.
Yeah.
And that's a comparison thing. And when I think of that comparison thing, I think of like the only way that you are able to compare is when you have other people around you, right? You have a community. So that's probably the bad side of it. What good side did community play in your journey?
Oh man, you know what? Yo, man, community played. I mean, just now you're talking about social media as an impairment. I mean, I remember I regard him as my brother. You know, we've known each other for so many years. He'd always say, man, you know, I'm tagging you on social media. You're not on social media. You must tell people about your business. That was many moons ago, right? Telling me about Instagram. And he then went subsequently to sign up my Instagram account. And he said to me, you must remember there are two types of people. There are people who want to eat and there are people who want to eat, and they're the feeders. So because we know that people love social media, let's feed them. You know, because I get the idea they're scrolling. Don't mind the fact that they like or not. Feed them because they want things. So own the spaces in their brains because they want their spaces in their brains to be owned. So shove your product in there, you know. And I think for me, when I think about that is, you know, you meet individuals like that. And I think that individual was Sibusiso Leop. I mean, it's popularly known as DJ Spoo. So that then built a sense of community because that then opened up to me meeting more people. So the good part of community is when you are able to, you know, understand everyone has their weaknesses and strengths. And your weaknesses just simply mean I need to be the strongest so that I anchor you up, you know. And then your strength means that we'll allow you the opportunity to do what you need to do and perform. But it becomes a power blend and a power relationship because everyone knows and is strong in something. And everyone is focused in something. We're not cannibalizing each other's ideas because now Josh's podcast is the one. Now I'm gonna also start a podcast because I want to do what Josh does. No. Because sometimes you then need to then always be aware of certain things and always ask yourself: is this an original idea? Is this my idea, or is this an idea that's planted in me because of the spaces I'm in? It's important to do that because if it's an idea that's planted because of the spaces that I'm in and I'm coming up with a unique idea, it's got nothing to do with my industry focus, then Josh is my mate. Why can't I pass that on to him so that he can further expand himself? So when you've reached the point of, when you've reached a point where, you are happy with where you are, you are happy, you are content with where you are because you know what's on for you, you know what's available for you on the other end. You're not content with the fact that your situation is bad, but your bad situation, an empty fridge, doesn't far supersede the fact that it's opened up in your head that you're going to make it one way or another. And you've made it a resolution that you're going to make it one way or another. But community then becomes important because what community takes away, it takes away what I said in my initial statement that I felt years ago. I started with no community. And I said that entrepreneurship is lonely, but it doesn't have to be. The experiences are unique experiences because you are feeling them in real time. They are you. There's no amount of empathy that can take that pain and put it on me. But when you have a sense of community, now you understand when you talk to the guys and say, I haven't been paid in 2 weeks. These guys are searching me like, 2 weeks. I haven't been paid in 2 years. They owe me money. As a result, I lost this, I lost that. Then you're like, but dude, why are you always smiling? Every day I meet you, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're paying for lunch. He says, because I'm not defined by that. I had to then sit in that moment and then think, am I going to focus on that, or they're not paying me? I need to find other things to supplement, but we'll continue to follow up because it's our legal responsibility to follow up on those things. Now that those type of conversation come as a result of community, because sometimes we look at our own challenges in business and we think, I'm the only one who's going through this. Sometimes we even overstate the challenges that we're experiencing. But in reality, with no community, you don't get to where you need to go, not just even faster, but in a meaningful way without burning yourself completing out. So the right type of communities for me help you in getting to where you need to go, but also equally, you need to be able to know how to ask for help. And who to ask for help is equally important. That some help is expensive and you don't need that help because it's going to cost you more in the end. Not in the fact that it's going to have interest on it, but if you ask the wrong people for help, you're going to pay for it in the end because they're going to want to own your journey for the rest of your life. So all of those things then matter. And I think then what I then identified in my journey is, if you're going to identify someone to work with, like for instance, you want to work with Josh, and you've identified that there's a lot of value in work with it. I can't just send you a DM and say, hi bro, I want to work with you. I need to understand what are your pain points. I need to understand what are you trying to achieve, because you are the most likely to respond to something that's in line with what you're trying to achieve. Why? Because I'm not your agenda. It doesn't matter how hungry you are. Even the person who gives food to the man on the side of the road, doesn't do it unless it's part of their agenda. Their agenda could be the fact that it gratifies them. It's part of their religious belief. It makes them feel better. It's what they were told to do by their parents. There's always something that's in line with what people do that drives them to do the things that they need to do. So the biggest job is never withdraw from a relationship that you haven't deposited in. So make relationships mutually beneficial. If you're going to identify someone to do business with, and you're going to ask them to help you, the focus is on me, do this for me, I want to take this, I want to take that. That's like sometimes it's like standing in front of a moving train. You're going to get hit, you're not going to get their attention, you're not going to get the time of day. So the best way to ask anyone for help is, how can I help you? How do I help you grow this podcast? Was in helping you growing this podcast and adding value into whatsoever it's important to you, I now build a relationship. When I have the relationship, I've got your attention. When I've got your attention, you'll be able to say whatever and say, 5 weeks ago, you had this guy that does 1, 2, 3. You know what? I'd like to introduce you to him. But relationships must be meaningful so that we move away from that extractive approach that's centered around take. And every time I DM him or I'm close to him, all I'm actually trying to say is, I just want to access your guests. I don't even really care about you. Let's bring meaning back into building solid relationships.
You've just given us a symphony of ideas there. Like, I'm just awestruck with how you just put that towards me. Like, I have to ask you though,
Yeah.
these things, like these lessons that you're learning, you're dropping wisdom, but they don't come from nowhere. What is the greatest challenge that you've experienced on your journey, and how did you overcome it?
There've been many. Maybe let's say not that. So the greatest challenge often comes at the inception of every new idea. Maybe let me put it that way. Because you're a master in one discipline and you've got the accolades. But whenever you start and develop a new idea in a new discipline, you are no longer a master. So for me, it's having the humility to say, I understand that I won in tennis. Now I need to be a tech, fintech. I'm starting this fintech. I am no longer a winner. Now I'm going to have the humility to learn from those who are running and winning within their journey. And also for me, it's, working out the doubts, working out the fear and the doubts of starting that thing. But, the moment you do that, you get yourself to a point where, you're resolved towards the development of your dreams, gets to a point where it doesn't matter. You're going to make it happen. It doesn't matter. You're going to succeed. But there's been a lot of challenges, rejections. I mean, as I talk to you now, I read an email just yesterday saying, we can't work with, not even last yesterday, today, this morning. Why? But that rejection, when I now started to think about it, it pains, it sucks. You feel it. But after you felt it, then you have to feel it. Don't wish it away. You have to feel it. But once you felt that rejection and they've said no to you, then ask a deeper question. I've already planted the seed. They now know who I am. Could then I expand this relationship a little bit more? Let's move it from being non-transactional. Let's do coffee. I actually like you as an individual, as an executive. Let's find ways of working together. And that working together, let's just find ways of just having a coffee. I'll take you out for coffee once a quarter. Then you build that you believe you build your social equity deliberately so that it doesn't come across as extractive. But the challenges are there. The challenges are many. And I think for me, it's the very clear reality that says, when you go into business, the percentage that inspired you to go into business will only account for, in my view, only 1% of what you'll be doing every single day. Because now you must be the cleaner, you must be the guy that arranges the guests, you must be the delivery guy, you must handle the invoices, you must still go sell. When they don't pay, you must be the henchman that goes there and threatens them. You must take back the work, you must deliver. So there are so many things that now you become accountable for. So the narrative also that says, and go into entrepreneurship because it's glamour, is the worst thing that you could ever do. Go into entrepreneurship if you want to serve, because that's all you'll be doing for the rest of your life. You're serving customers. You're adding value to stakeholders. You're serving SARS because they get paid through you. When you start to think of it as service, it releases the burden away from every single thing. When you start to think of it as service, you don't just want to do it because you're being paid. You're going to want to do it because this thing actually has a meaningful impact on people. So one of the things that, you probably hear it from Alon, he loves saying that, solve the pain. Think of it as a pain. Solve the customer pain. Because when you think of it as pain and as a remedy, you as a human being intrinsically, instantly, your brain can pick up what you're talking about. When you talk about solving, you instantly know what solving pain is. It's like when you've had a headache and it's extinguished or it's gone away, sorry. You know what that feeling of relief looks like. Bring that relief to other people.
Sure. And what would you say throughout your journey? You've talked about the pain and like getting through that. What would you say has been the upside of that? What has been the highlights along the way?
Sure, man.
Besides the book, obviously.
Yeah, no, man, there's been a lot. Obviously, there's been a lot. To be honest, because of the fact that I started so young, I started very young. Dude, I started very, very young. I was a kid when I started. You know what that's allowed me? I've achieved a lot. It's the first time I've said this out loud, but I have. I've been in spaces. I felt like I've lived multiple lives, because of the stuff that I've done. When you are able to sit in spaces, you're appointed to the presidency to advise, winning multiple awards, building a business. So moving, from the dream of starting a business to take care of, to put bread on the table, to take care of myself, to taking care of my mother and my family, to that not having being a thing, to being able to create employment and do all these things and building sustainability, and that's not a thing, to now, how do I make the environment a better place? And now you get to a place of now you've built enough to get to a place now you do the things that you love. There's no gun to your head. You do the things that you love, but you can't get to a point of doing the things that you love if sometimes you don't do the things that you don't love. And that's what entrepreneurship is about at the end of the day, that shifting that perception that says, you build the purpose along the way. You build the why along the way. Someone says, how do I know my dream? I want to know my purpose in life. You don't find your purpose asking that question. You find it doing stuff. You find him coming to the podcast, picking up cables behind the scenes. No one knows you. Your purpose pops up. Your purpose maybe is, what I want to do is run an events business, because I've been in spaces where there's friction and there's motion. So, and I think for me, that then becomes very important, because that's where I found the solitudeness and the resoluteness to develop me. So at some point, my measurement of success and achievement has moved a lot, where it was in things and awards and being number one and being all in all these limited things. I mean, infinite things, finite things that have got limitations. So now to be in a place where, my biggest success is being at peace and being happier and be learning, understand? And also then being open enough to saying that I could learn from anywhere, anytime, and be freeing myself from materialism, in the sense that even if I lived anywhere in Grand, why? Because I've built it, I've lost it, I've built it. I know what it is to not have, I know what it is to have, and I know what it is to be content in between. So when I have, I'm not overconsumed in the having that it defines my character and who I am. Those are things, like just things that become tools that we're able to express ourselves through. So instead of spending time glorifying the tool, which is the business, spend the time developing the jockey, which is you, the practitioner. And when you do that, it doesn't matter what business you are in. So sometimes when we say, I want to find my purpose, what we're indirectly saying to ourselves is, I want to know what business to start. But we're focusing on the wrong thing. Focus on the activity, the purpose will come. The direction will then be clear, and your dreams will be very clear.
Sure. You've inspired me through everything that you've just said. And I want to find out from you, like, you've achieved all these things. You've done all these things. You've explained where you started, how you've overcome, and how that's led to this abundance that you are now experiencing. What's next beyond that?
No, man, I'll tell you. Our focus is really, as through the work that we do through T, Township Entrepreneur. Maybe let me just give a quick background on that. Township Entrepreneurs Alliance initiative was started 10 years ago with the sole aim of creating a space where township entrepreneurs then could meet once a month. Our goal then was just to have 10 entrepreneurs in a room, 180 shoulder, 10 years ago, to say we want to learn, we want to know each other. And that has grown over the years. We then now have been able to create a nationwide footprint initiative that has directly impacted over 80,000 township entrepreneurs, as you said. But we cover all major townships. The work that we do is driven by passion before profit, because it was funded by my business and there was no commercial value when we started whatever it is that we start. But it was starting it with the discipline that said we want to do beautiful things. We want an entrepreneur, an individual who lives in the same community, attending something to happen in their community, to get shocked when they're there. Why? Because we need to peel off the layers in their brain. Why? Because if you are learning from the same place where you are experiencing the pain, the hunger, the distress of your dreams not moving, then what needs to change for your mind to open up is how the space looks. So that the space, when it changes how the space looks, it opens up your brain to what are the opportunities. When you now are opened up to what the opportunities, now you actually get to learn from that particular space. And for me, it was to then say, when we do stuff in the township, we'll do stuff that is dignified, stuff that is high value. Why? Because the township economy is not informal. It's actually the most formal economy that you'll ever come across. So in actual fact, what I always say to big business needs to formalize themselves on how the township economy actually operates. So instead of driving us to formalization, you might even find that we have zero interest in formalizing because we are making more than enough. Because of the fact that your systems have excluded us for so long, some of us have done so well where we are operating in the absence of that support systems at the end of the day. So the big thing then for me is, because we're doing this work, man, our passion is we've reached 80,000 township entrepreneurs. There's over 2 million informal, they call them informal businesses. There's over 2 million businesses operating in the township, and there's way more than that who are registered with CIPC. We want to be the go-to guys for this market, but not just go-to, let's quantify it. We want to be able to provide real-time research data at any given moment in time on what's happening in real time to township entrepreneurs. Be the feeders and not the feeders per se, but be the support agents and enablers for young individuals who are unemployed to understand that actually you're not unemployed. You just need to learn how to sell. Let's teach you how to sell. Let's treat you as trade and a skill so that you are able to, put bread on the table at the end of the day. Because then sales is a catalyst for you moving your idea, and the low barriers to market as well. Because the moment I've understood that I need to sell, then I don't need to create the product. Immediately, I can resell someone else's product and harness the skill. The moment I've sold someone else's product and harness the skill, maybe I end up developing my product, maybe I don't. But now I've got the wheels turning and people now know who I am and what I can do at the end of the day. So I think the big dream for us is, to really touch those over 2.5 million lives, to build platforms where we don't just touch any lives and it's a feeling, but to build platforms where they can learn, to build platforms where commerce can happen in and amongst themselves, in a hyper-localized manner that doesn't frustrate themselves, so that they understand that, yes, you dream of being at a national retailer, but did you know that you could actually make just as much if you focused on winning over your province and build that as a model for growth and development? So we want to be those, guys, but want to continue with the impact work in funding township entrepreneurs, in shifting the perspective and exporting township entrepreneurial work. Because we started exporting some of the work in 2022 when we took township entrepreneurs to Paris and we took them to VivaTech, and we've been consistent with that. So our big thing has always been, your idea is geographical in start. Your business is geographical in positioning, in location, but your ideas must never, ever be tied down to their geographical position. You can compete on a global scale. So which is why, as part of our ethos, we've always believed in no handouts. Let's build resilient businesses. Why? Because the market is unforgiving. The market is unforgiving, and the market, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. The market responds to value add, deliver value for your customers, be fixated by delivering the value for your customers, know how to sell, know how to close. So we believe in building entrepreneurs that will be resilient and compete. So that when they come and they compete with an entrepreneur who grew up in Sandton, had all the money and all the privilege, when they put them together in a pitch, that individual must not look like they had nothing at the end of the day. You need to be able to pitch yourself out of that so that you know that you can position your products for global markets. Whereas in some aspects and in some places, your business is not doing well because the market of individuals that you're selling the product to are not your customers at the end of the day. An alternate market is your customer. It's important then for you to understand who is that particular market. So our big thing is to really bring that out. The next tier of billionaires should be entrepreneurs that come from these markets, who build their businesses from the ground, who understand the power of these markets, but who build it also from the knowledge of where they come from and think of that knowledge as a superpower more than it is a weakness.
Yeah, that resilience to get through the challenges that are in front of you is what makes you more competitive compared to a global space. Because if you come from comfort, it's difficult to be hardened. It's difficult to become resilient. You have to go through those pains. You have to go through those struggles. And that's why the people that are on the top, a lot of the time, they come from that pain and they come from that struggle. They had to go through that to get there. And if you're someone who's going through that, you're going to have to surround yourself with people that are able to teach and guide you. I always say there's two ways to learn. The first is to go through the pain and the struggle and to learn the hard way. Or you can go and talk to someone who's been through that and learn from them and look at what they do. And that's a much less painful way to do it. And that's why I think it's important to read something like the book that's going to be launched. It's the way that you're going to be able to find it within you to get things done. So
like that.
Thank you so much.
I like that. But you know what I love about what you said? What you're saying is, be comfortable, but don't rest. Because if I come from poverty and I get to a point where I now get to breathe and I feel like I've arrived, and I feel like my business has done it all, the chances of me losing it are the highest. Why? Because the market is competitive. So I'll be comfortable, but never relax, and how do you then work that out on a day-to-day basis? Learn. What you're talking about is what you do. I mean, I jog in the morning. When I jog in the morning for an hour, I'm listening to an hour podcast. When I'm driving in between my meetings, I spend 4 hours on the road on average every single day. When those 4 hours on the road, I'm deliberate about what I'm listening to in the car. If I'm not in calls, then I've got on my notes on my phone, I've written notes of all the things that I want to learn. So I've done this, right? I've got 4 sections. Because I'm a dad and I've got 2 boys and the boys live with me, I watch content around being a dad. And then the second part that I watch content on is the industry that I'm in, the township economy. I'm researching out who's saying what about the township, what's going on, what can I learn about this economy, who are the skilled practitioners, the professionals who are writing stuff about this. Then I try and see if I can find stuff like that to listen to watch, or to read. Then the third thing that I look at is I am in the township economy as an individual, and that's a service, but I'm an entrepreneur. So how then do I then become a better entrepreneur? What are the latest trends, and who do I listen to? Is it a Simon Sinek talking about leading with empathy? Is it a Seth Godin talking about, branding, marketing, positioning yourself? Is it a Tebe Galafin talking about take your brand out there into Africa? Is it a Vusi Tembe? Who are these individuals that I can tap into as a resource? And then the fourth thing for me is, what are all the things that I keep hearing about that I'd love to learn about? What is this ChatGPT? What is this AI? What is machine learning? Then all the concepts I hear about, I then sit in a podcast and I watch that stuff. Sometimes I don't watch if I don't have time. I listen. Then I become deliberate. If I'm flying to Cape Town, I'm flying to Mauritius, I'm flying to Australia, I don't watch the content that they provide. I then become deliberate ahead of the flight. I get onto the space, I pre-download all the videos of all these 4 things that I'd like to watch. Then now I've got a collateral sitting on my phone of things that I can watch offline. For me, it's being deliberate, because we can make the excuse that says there'll never be time. But there is opportunities in doing the things that you do every day to add a layer where you develop yourself while you do those things. But if you wait for the moment where the opportunity is going to come, it's not going to come. The opportunity don't come in silver platters. They never have. You need to be enterprising for opportunity to come. Similarly to learning, there will never be opportunities that will avail themselves for you to learn a new skill. You have to want to sacrifice certain sometimes time so that you can be affixed and watch it on your television screen. Sometimes you can do it alternately while doing other things, and you do that thing. But it has to be deliberate and it has to be intentional. So someone says to me, Joe, man, that seems like a robotic life. No, that seems like a freed life, because I also equally need to guard myself as much as I can. And I need to guard all the entry points of my life, my eyes, my nose, my ears, my mouth, and all other entry points. Why? Because whatever I allow in has the ability to contaminate my life. So because I only have one life to live, and in most cases, I only have one shot in certain things. And even though sometimes there is redemption and there are second chances, there are opportunities that you never get second chances in. I have to be protected because it's the only life I have. And I only ever get to live it once. So I can't just be you only live once with every aspect of my life. But I'll be you only live once when I've worked out all the risk factors in whatever I'm saying that I'll only live once in, so that it's calculative towards where I want to go.
Sure. After this conversation, I'm ready to invest. I'm ready. I'm ready to invest in South Africa already, because like we have the secret sauce here. We really do. It's just about how do we create that circle where what abundance has been created can be reinvested and can grow further. And that's what T is doing. And that's all the projects that you're working on are in alignment with that vision. So the success of our country really becomes a function of time and also getting people involved. So if you are someone listening to this and you've been inspired like I have, please go check out what Bulelani is doing. Go check out the book as well. There's a lot for you to learn and see how you can get involved. Bulelani,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Sure. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I never leave any platform. I just want a 30-second parting shot for me is just always remember, talk is cheap. Numbers don't lie. The only thing that's going to change your life is action. Start to work. You're unemployed. You're a young person. Volunteer your time someone. Don't have an ego about changing your life. You've got your friends. You've got a friend, and your friend's family has got 4 or 5 cars. Ask their parents to wash the car. Put the ego at the door, because, if you're still minding ego, the hunger is still going to deal with you. You don't care about what people are going to say or what friends or peers are going to say. Go to your friend if your friend has a car and ask your friend to wash their car. Why? Because you are equals in the age, but you are not equal in the fact that you want the opportunity from them. So when you want it bad enough, you take the ego, you put it outside, and you start working on the things that you need to work on, and you don't care. Why? Because you know that the things that you are doing now, you're not doing them for where you are, but you're doing them for where you need to go. So get things done, work on your business, and always ensure that you are selling every single day of your business.
Let's go.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. Love it.
Thank you so much for watching this latest episode of the C.Cast. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to achieve a huge mission and we need you to invest in it. The best way to do that is by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and leaving a comment down below. By doing that, you help the algorithm understand that we are offering content that is valuable and it will reach more people. There might also be someone out there that just wants to learn a lesson or who might be able to take something away from the podcast. Share it with them. And lastly, if you would like to be more involved in the community, if you want access to opportunities, knowledge from our experience in the digital marketing space, or to connect with other people who are like-minded and uplifting the continent, starting businesses and using tech and creativity to make them successful, join the WhatsApp group by scanning the QR code and we'll chat with you there. Until then, bye. Coming from the States, where you have all these resources, why would you come to South Africa?
You're saying resources, but Africa has the source. America cannot function without the source. I want to plug into the source.
Today we're throwing it way back to the beginning of the C.Cast. For the sake of this episode, if you don't know who Elijah is, we need to do a little bit of an introduction. Emmy winner.
The first people that they send into to repair things are creatives.
Has worked on many different projects, the likes of Mary J. Blige, Lady Gaga, the Cheetah Girls.
So it's not a one-sided story anymore. It becomes a bigger market. So everybody want to lead with authority. That leadership is the poorest leadership possible.
Assisting on the sets of Gomorrah, working with Connie Ferguson.
The vast population here is most likely on survival mode.
It's going to be a really, really spicy episode.
When you create a space where we're not in survival mode anymore, then you can come up with more creativity. The more you have artistic people come in and start setting standards, that creates a whole culture and environment for people to start with.
This Tyler situation discrimination, terminology of being colored, the word being acceptable in South Africa but not being acceptable in the States. What does it actually mean to be African? Are they African or are they American?